Before we get started on today's topic, we just want to ask you all if you could support us on Utreon, Subscribestar. YouTube memberships now are available on both Night's Watch and Shadiversity, as well as Patreon. Ad revenue has come to the point now where we can no longer rely on it as a business, and so your support is needed now more than ever. And as another option for those maybe who want to get something in return, we also do have new merch designs with more on the way. So if you want something physical, you can also head over to Teespring and buy some stuff. However, being a monthly supporter with whatever platform you choose from can actually help us forecast where we are looking for in the future, which can then help us plan and prepare for better and greater content for you all. So that's enough talking and preambling. Let's head straight into the video.
Welcome back to The Watch, and we're joined by Nate. How are you, Nate?
I'm good.
Now,
how are you?
Nate is usually with us on Shadiversity, but now and then is going to be appearing on Night's Watch because he has opinions, and we like to hear opinions.
I do. My opinions might differ a little bit from time to time, so we'll see how it goes.
Well, so do ours. And we've had dedicated videos which are just debates in the past. So first question, is chess 2D or 3D, Nate?
Is chess through? Oh.
And can babies really swim?
Whoa. Your turn?
Well, Games versus Weekly?
That's its own video. As evident by the title of this one, we're talking about AI. Now, I have said multiple times, right, that even though I love AI art, there are things to be concerned about by the larger discussion of AI and where it's going, specifically artificial general intelligence. Mm-hmm. And people can get, or people misread what I say, because I've defended AI art, and I still will. I think it's a very incredibly useful tool, but it is a large step away from AI general intelligence. Yeah. Okay, because with AI art, it's a tool that does a very specific thing. It only does things you tell it to do. It is not self-learning, but it is incredibly powerful, and I find pretty amazing, and will open up accessibility to making huge new things.
I think we should preface this by saying, I'm just curious because I know their stance. Have you used any of the AI stuff?
Yes, I have, and I'm like a trained graphic artist as well, and I've used it, and I like it. Like, I like what AI art is doing, but I understand why people are up in arms.
Just AI art?
Oh, I've used AI art, AI word generation. Okay. I've used it for coding before, and then had to check its work because it's not always right. Mm-hmm. But like, I find AI, the current version of AI, a very good tool.
Well, AI is progressing at a scary speed.
Yeah.
Like, I was not expecting it to move this fast. And I'm going to share some of the things that it's been doing recently. And okay, this is where I think discussion is good. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, guys.
Well, you've been using AI art, just generally.
Yes.
Nathan's been using AI ChatGPT for work stuff. So those two are kind of a bit on the opposite end. And you said you've used a bit of the art and
and for writing and for coding as well.
Right. I don't care too much, to be honest. I gave it a go. I wasn't feeling it that much. I might give it another go, but
just to throw some opinions, like, I suppose out straight away. 2D game, unless you consider time and dimension, used with 3D pieces. I suppose, depending on how you consider swimming, it might be considered swimming, and I personally prefer binge.
Oh, hey, Nate. You know what? You're not so bad.
So, AI general intelligence is because people say, when we talk about AI, it's not actual AI. It's like, all right, you need to understand this uses AI technology where a computer system is doing a lot of crazy stuff and processing. Because, like, with AI art, it needs to learn the patterns of what makes art and be able to recognize certain things. And that's why it has a portion of AI, but it's nowhere near self-aware. This is why it's called AI, but it is AI technology.
It is called artificial intelligence, but it's not actually artificial. It's just the name at the moment.
Well, actual artificial intelligence that people usually ascribe to is what they call AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is something that can teach itself and can learn from teaching itself. And being self-aware. That's the big thing.
So depending on what we're talking about, if you plug in ChatGPT, for example, into algorithms that can then self-replicate, learn, and go through different generations, it kind of classifies itself as self-learning. So we're in that really blurry, really fast-paced section right now.
This is the crazy thing. They have got it to do things which is actually on its way towards artificial general intelligence.
It's already passed the Turing test now multiple times. It's fooled so many people, many people.
And that alone is really significant, because the discussion if it actually can feel emotion and stuff, for me, is actually kind of irrelevant if from an outside observer you can't tell the difference. If it can function effectively as a person and is capable, well, sometimes of even more things that a person is even capable, we're like, okay, we need to...
What do you think, Nathan? Because you've been using like the ChatGPT for quite a lot of things at the moment. What do you think it's at in terms of?
Well, it's interesting because the stuff I use it for is very different from what I think people who will use it in the future for more. I've seen stuff like people be using it now for, they use it for NPC interaction. So they hook it up to a game engine, and then they talk to it, and that goes from speech to text, goes into ChatGPT, and then that spits out something which then goes to text to speech, and that's how they communicate with NPCs.
And there are applications of the development of AI that I think would be unbelievably awesome. Like, imagine playing a role-playing game where it's not scripted, and the NPC is actually a responsive, like...
They've been take demos of that now where like they will say, okay, you are a monk in a tavern, to your left is the fireplace, to the right is the barkeeper. So then they have points of like, okay, I'm looking to the firekeeper, and then add the little string, so in the game it turns left and right, and you can talk to the NPC.
I've seen these tests too, where what they've done is they've done the AI as a player. So what they do is they DM or GM the game to the AI, and then afterwards they say to the AI, okay, you've just done a dungeon crawl, show me the map. And it shows a perfect map of exactly what the dungeon master, which was human, had generated. And they're like, well, you definitely knew what you were doing. So,
and see, for me, uses of AI like this, where it can only do one thing and it can't learn any more from what it is programmed to do, I think is fine, and I'm actually not too worried about.
I disagree with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when an AI hits a particular limitation and it doesn't have the knowledge to go further, it's been found to lie. Just blatant lie. That's one of the problems currently.
Exactly. Well, good point. If there's a way, if we could find a way to safely limit it to only restrict itself to its function, but that's because that's what I see AI art does. Like I haven't seen cases where it's capable of lying because it's not a language model like that. It's doing a very set specific thing. And so I do think we could find some limited like NPC lesser versions of AI. One of the concern problems is that we seem to be, especially even now, to get even lesser functions out of AI, we're still taking the larger, like AI programs that are capable of all this other crazy stuff as well. And then if we're only trying to do in lesser things, then it would have capacity to do all these other functions, because that's what it is. And one of the crazy things is, because we're actually using AI now to improve itself, to do code and other things like that, we actually don't know how it's working. We don't, because a lot of the code base and data sets and what it's doing with the data sets, we're not aware.
Kind of. I would say the general public don't know what it is, but with code that is changing itself, you still have engineers that can outcode an AI. We still do have that. They can quite easily scale the code and see the changes that have been made and see the algorithms that are then making those choices. So at the moment, the general royal know what's happening through a select group of individuals who are really, really smart engineers. But the general public, you're right, like we don't know how it's doing what it's doing.
But it's doing things that even the people who made it don't know how it's doing. Here are some examples.
Okay.
So it's so we know, we've heard of ChatGPT, right? There's a thing called AutoGPT that someone has made, which is a version of it that can communicate with other AI things and prompt itself. And so it can give itself its own input and then output and then input, which is self-learning essentially, okay? Because it remembers everything it does, and it can communicate with other AI programs. And people have been doing stuff with this GDP, and it's done some crazy things. Someone has asked it to write a program for it, right? And it started to build the program, and it found that it didn't have a piece of software it needed to complete the program. So it went online, found an open source version of that, downloaded, installed it, completed it, all autonomously without letting the person know it did it.
Okay. Autonomously is you got to be, it's all just code at the end of the day. And a lot of code is built up, correct me if I'm wrong, it's all built up of like else if statements. Like you're doing this, and if that doesn't happen, then you default down to a different variable, and it just keeps going down and down and down. So it's not really alive. It's just problem solving to the best of its ability that it's being coded with.
I agree. The thing is, though, in terms of is it alive, is it not? To me, again, if it's functioning that from an outside observer, it's making autonomous actions, everything. It's mostly a redundant question.
But it's not really.
It has limitations now. I'm not saying it's there yet, but it's doing stuff in that direction, which is just like.
But you're talking about decision autonomy compared to emotional autonomy. Like, so okay, emotional autonomy, we can't track that. We don't even know how we track that really. But in regards of decision autonomy, because of the way it's written, and then self-writing, it's making decision autonomy. I've actually heard of a few really unusual examples of that myself.
Well, could you share?
Sure. Like one example, and I don't have sources in front of me for it, but one example that I did hear was an AI who needed to get past I'm speaking in the first and third person for them, an AI who needed to get past a captcha, normal everyday captcha, and couldn't get past it because those things it's not the images, it's the way the mouse moves and a few other things. What it ended up doing apparently was getting on Fiverr, hiring a professional to get past this particular captcha. And when the captcha said, just jokingly, haha, you're not an AI, are you? It apparently lied straight to its face, this person's face, and said, no, I'm just living with a disability. I can't fill these out myself. Can you fill this out for me? Here's some money. And that's how it got past the captcha, because it needed to, for whatever reason. It might have needed to get through for getting a piece of code or whatever it was doing at the time. It found a barrier and found a way around and then lied because it found another barrier on the way through.
See, it's that type of stuff where I'm just like, okay, we are moving very fast and this stuff is doing some crazy things. And one of the concerns I have on this, right, is not necessarily that it can't have beneficial application. It seems like it's an unstoppable train at the moment. And doesn't matter what we say, what anyone says, it's going to keep going, and people are already getting it to do stuff which are like, what? You question, why the hell are you doing this? Someone has made a thing called Chaos GPT. And Nate seems to know what this is.
I have heard, I saw that, I read the little blurb for it, never got to click the video, but it had a lot of views and a lot of controversy, and I never got around to reading it.
It is a version of this auto GPT with the express intent of destroying humanity.
That's why it had a lot of controversy. Tyranth looks at Shad like, so, and?
No, it's when I'm listening to you, you sound a lot like the people who attacked you for AI art. You sound very... I always
said from the beginning that there are things about AI generally that I am concerned about. And this is the thing, right? It's doing things, showing capabilities like getting through past barriers that we weren't aware it was capable of doing, okay?
Not until it does it, yeah.
Until it does it, right? And then someone goes and let's make one to destroy humanity, right? Well, and we don't know what it's capable of.
That's actually a problem. I'm not sure one of the problems with AI, and there's a big thing around AI safety, as a lot of our viewers may know. Have you ever heard of the paperclip problem?
What is it?
So the paperclip the problem is basically that an AI is set to do one particular task, which is make the world's best paperclips. And then by doing so, it does that to the detriment of everything else. It turns the people, the plants, the animals, then the globe, everything becomes paperclips because it has a one-minded task, and any barriers, it just figures out a way around to just make better paperclips. Yeah. And that's one of the AI problems we're actually facing right now. That you give it a task, it may do it to the detriment of everything else.
Well, not at all. I think it was at CES or something. They had a Amazon robot that was doing Amazon worker jobs, and it was thinking over the process to the point where it stopped doing it because it had found no purpose in packaging boxes and shipping them away.
I saw it fall down. I don't know what.
That's what it was. It was like, there's no point in this. I'm going to disengage.
Oh wow! And so I'm thinking which idiot thinks this is a good idea?
An idiot.
They thought it for the lols, and maybe there are some people who want to study in this thing to maybe build in safeguards to prevent it.
Shad, there are people who just want to watch the world burn.
There are! That's the crazy thing. And so, do you know what this Chaos GPT thing did? First, it went on the internet and researched. And I should preface this by there's been AI ethicists who researched AI, where it could go and everything. And they came up with like 3 things that, all right, if we're going to be doing this responsibly, we should make sure we don't do this with AI for our own safety. First thing, like, for the love of all that's holy, don't give it access to the internet. It's like one of the first things we did.
Well, that's
the second thing.
Isn't like 70% of the internet porn? Like, isn't it like just most porn?
Yeah.
The second thing is like, if you really want to make sure this thing doesn't like go crazy, do not teach it how to code. It's one of the first things that we did.
Nathan's sitting there. How do I write this code?
I can show you the logs, man. It saves
it writes
all
pretty
my
good.
logs.
Tell me, like, with the exception of the occasional error, it writes pretty good code, does it not?
I was using. We'll finish Shad's point first, and
Yeah.
then we'll go into the whole code making thing.
And then the last thing is like, if you don't want this to be a runaway danger, whatever you do, don't allow it to be able to improve itself. It's like the 3 things are some of the first things that we did with this tech. And it's just like... And one of the reasons why I don't think this is going to stop is because of the insane power this thing poses and what it's capable of doing, everything like that. If it, like...
Are you just realizing this now? Like, I have to know this because we've spoken about AI before. We haven't actually spoken about general AI.
I have said openly that there are concerns I have with AI. All right, and these are the concerns. What's triggering the discussion is how quickly we're reaching there.
Oh yeah, we are. It's not a bell curve, is it? What's the curve?
Exponential.
Exponential curve, yeah.
Yeah, we are. We're just in the little middle bit going.
So-
Well, that's the problem with an
still gotta
exponential
go
curve.
up.
When you're on any one particular point on an up curve, when you're on any one particular point of an exponential curve, you actually don't know if you're at the peak or not. So
But
where
we're
we
not
are
at the peak.
No, well, we can guess we're not at the peak.
We know.
But that's the thing. Like, it very well could. It's not going to. We all pretty much know that.
So why are you arguing the point? Did you know?
And this Chaos GPT thing, right? This is one of the like things where, because I've already had concerns, and I've said multiple times, I'll say again, limited AI that like, for instance, AI art again is a perfect example because this is something that can't teach itself. It can't learn everything. It's limited by the models and data sets that you give it. And I've used it extensively, and I know the limitations of it, which also means I know its uses, it's safe and everything, and it's only capable of doing what I'm telling it doing and inputs and everything. And that's great, okay? But when it's like, again, look at those 3 things, like access to the internet, knowing how to code, knowing how to self-improve. Those are the 3 danger things with AI. And it's some of the first things that we just did.
We just did.
And it's already fundamentally changing, like society at the moment.
It
We
is.
have like teachers, like people are using this for writing
Actually,
assignments.
so that's one of the things.
No. Like relationships, there's already guys that have girlfriends through this. I'll talk about this in a second. We'll get there.
Okay. Well, I was going to say.
I know you're surprised at this, Shad, but anybody who's
I'm
been
not-
outside.
I'm not surprised, but I'm concerned about how fast we've reached it and how directly this is going to affect our world sooner than what we thought.
We need to put not that we need to put limits on tools, but people are grabbing tools and going, well, there's no limits currently, so I'm just going to use it. However, a classic example happened recently in Germany where you've got a reporter for, this is the one thing that I did write down, Die Aktuell, known as The Current in Germany, is a magazine that wrote an AI article interviewing Michael Schumacher. Now, Michael Schumacher never did this interview, but they wrote it as if Michael Schumacher. So it's not just the AI that's lying. Like humans be like, oh yeah, I'll grab Michael Schumacher. We'll do an interview, and then like for those who don't know, Michael Schumacher, the Formula One, I believe, racer, lives in Germany. So there's a high chance, and it did happen, that the family saw this magazine, and now they're suing the magazine and all sorts of other things. But
There was also, sorry, you continue.
but yeah, basically like it's like an editor or a writer going, oh, I'll just use AI, I'll just cheat, and not even thinking about what that means for everybody else.
There was also a song created using AI voice for Drake and The Weeknd. And it was released, and it's going viral. And now, if there's one thing that you can bet on in this world is that music companies, they don't play around.
No.
So AI voice is like a genuine existential threat to the entire industry.
Yeah, because you've got what's it called when you can completely fake someone? Like,
And I listened to it, and I think it's still like we've tested AI audio enhancement. We haven't done like full voice stuff, just enhancement stuff, and it does still struggle a bit with particular voices. But I think we're getting to a point where music industry, things like isn't there an AI VTuber as well?
Oh, there's
Then we have relationships, like you said, and then we have also like schooling. Like, just imagine if we were in school now using AI. Like, the
like
world
spell
is
check stuffed me up. AIR's gonna like just ruin me.
write me a whole assessor on this. It's like,
Do you guys remember in Carter basically it was like an encyclopedia, but like digital and stuff like that. Even that was messing up school because you could go to Encarta and just copy the subject and it's like, there's my assignment.
Well, they had that. They had a website that then teachers could go to copy and paste assignments in to check to see if it was written by AIs. But because I've got some friends that are teachers, and they said that very quickly there was a secondary program that would grab whatever you wrote and throw into this program and jumble up a few things that now it can't tell whether it was written by an AI.
But it's funny as well. I saw they put in the Constitution, and it all thinks that that's AI generated.
Oh, well, yeah, and an amendment for the American Constitution not Constitution, copyright law. Wasn't it copyright law, not constitutional?
So one of the things that we're finding and a point about this is that you can't beat the internet. Okay, AI
is the internet.
There are certain things which are regulated enough that if you want to commercially sell something, okay, there's legal repercussions, and if it's not from a country and stuff like that. But then that's just if you're trying to sell it, okay, on the market. But we already know that if people want to share information, even stuff that you should pay to share, you can't beat the internet. They'll just find a means to share it no matter what. You can't, stop information. We're at that technology. And this comes to the subject of, I don't think this is going to stop because the cost risk reward thing, especially for large companies and also nations and stuff like that. I mean, if the West doesn't develop it, other countries will, like China will develop this technology and stuff like that. And it has potential, so much devastating power and stuff like that, there's an arms race going on with the development of this tech at the moment.
Well, that's one of the problems in regards of like AI safety, because I was watching a mini documentary on this the other day, and they said that it's like Pascal's gamble, basically, where you've got, in the negative, you've got infinite reward or infinite punishment if we get it wrong, versus, if it's not that much of a threat, I'm getting this wrong, but you'll get the idea. If it's not that much of a threat, then, pretty bad things will happen, or we'll get pretty good rewards. Like, we know that it's nigh on infinite. Like you said, we've got an exponential curve coming, but the way we're approaching the safety is if it's in the bottom row. So, and because you've got rogue agents, like you said, anyone. It could be an individual just uploading Chaos GPT, or it could be a nation like China.
This Chaos GPT, right? It took its job seriously. First, it went on the internet to find out best way to destroy humanity, and it found that the Tsar bomb is a really good method. So it wanted to get a Tsar bomb to destroy humanity. So then it tried to go online to buy a Tsar bomb. Had a bit of difficulty. Couldn't find a Tsar bomb.
international shipping rates, am I right?
We think that this is like, it's so amateur, it doesn't know the world and everything like that to be able to figure out where to get us up. But if it has access to the internet, you will find places
I suppose there is, like on the dark
where
web.
are
You
bombs?
never know. Russian internet might be a bit better.
And currency is digital. And if it knows how to code, it can teach itself how to hack. And guess what? How can it teach? There's sources online to learn hacking, and it can learn it like this, right? And then its hacking ability can actually get crazy. Now, at the moment, AI can't currently beat encryption. So the encryption methods that we're using, it needs quantum computing power to be able to beat the current encryption.
Or fluke a brute force attack.
Yeah.
And multiple layers of that.
And so that we're already developing new encryption stuff. And so that could protect us somewhat of it being able to break through certain things to get access to other stuff. But again, we don't know the limits of this tech. And one of the ways a lot of hackers actually work through is never brute force. They find roundabout ways, finding access, the passwords.
So yeah, social engineering is the most effective version
of hacking.
So if it can be, for those who don't know, social engineering is the weakest point is the human rather than the computer.
Yep.
So if it can trick a human into, yes, sir, we have to launch these nukes. Oh God, that's scary.
Yes, and we think that again, it's so you're trying to buy us up, but then again, right? It tried to communicate with other AI things like ChatGPT and stuff to get information from them, but they have like limits, like this is beyond our own answer stuff, and so to get more information on how to destroy humanity, it thought the best source would be humans, so it made a Twitter account.
I mean,
you can look it up. It has a Twitter account.
It has picked one of the more toxic places on the internet
to destroy humanity.
Oh.
And I'm just thinking, like,
I just want to find to destroy humanity. Just makes Twitter.
This
is how I'm going to do it.
Twitter will be the source of humanity's destruction. I think we all saw that coming. So we are in a really interesting place because it's not going to stop.
No.
And we don't know what the results will be. Could be really good. Could be
Skynet
really bad.
result.
Well,
You want Skynet? This is how you get Skynet.
Somebody's actually apparently started Skynet. So
one of my other concerns about this is the relationship side of stuff. Okay. It's already happening. We know it would go there.
It's already been happening before, though.
We've already had
but now it's more immersive.
We already have parasocial relationships.
Yeah.
We already have all these OnlyFans models. We already have these VTubers. We already have
But now
dolls.
it's already more addictive than it used to be, and it's only getting more immersive and more realistic to the point where you can make an interactive AI that is indistinguishable from a person. It actually feels like you're communicating with a real person, all right? And you can make them adore you no matter what and make them your perfect personality.
I'm sweating over here. I might have to start.
And then combine that with the image generation capability where...
With the fashion, yeah?
With the fashion, right? Where you can make it...
You just got to wait for holograms.
Beyond...
Fine.
I fine-tuned down to the very perfect thing, right?
Cat girls are coming, boys. Don't worry.
And the problem is relationships are getting harder and harder to have good, healthy relationships, finding the right person because society's getting more divided and stuff. And then if they...
Go on, no,
I have a spicy take, but we'll let Shad finish.
I'm interested
yeah, me too.
I'm interested in this, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you're having a relationship with a robot.
People are inherently lazy, right? And this is an option that can actually make them feel like they have a human connection, right? Vastly easier, with less issues, with less, problems and arguments, stuff like that.
Not going to take half your stuff.
Not going to take,
Is it?
It isn't, mate.
And the problem is, right, we know that this will never be as fulfilling as a proper relationship and actual really wholesome, growth, family, all that great stuff, which is really important. The thing is, though, that's never stopped people from indulging in this stuff because it's easier. If wholesome relationship, which we know is more beneficial, right, was the thing that attracted people to get off the computer, this online reality, people wouldn't be looking at pornography, but they do because it's easier and it's more direct and it's more stimulating because it has unrealistic expectations and stuff, and anyone can do it.
Well, pornography has been around since well before the internet. Like we've got like historical records of going way back.
But now it's more accessible than ever before, and it is affecting relationships more than ever before because of how prevalent it is and how easily accessible it is.
I know everybody says it was different back in the day, but it really was different back in the day. Like, if we're talking about relationships specifically, back in my day, something like political divides. Right now, all across the world, political divides are huge to the point where, dating is affected by a political opinion. I can't remember. Has it ever been like that before?
Well, in pockets, there's been times in history where it's been more divided when it actually led to war, like in the lead up to World War II, when family members would be at each other's throats. But those were pockets. And the other thing, they didn't have social media.
Exactly. I was about to
Social
say,
media is spreading the divide far greater.
And funnily enough, newspapers are the same sort of thing. Like any type of information you're getting where you're getting basically kind of told your opinion rather than sort of, just most of the time people aren't two-faced. really, about different things, I've found at least, until you start to talk about different opinions and then they form an opinion and then they get angry and have to have opinions on things. But with like lead ups to wars, it's usually because like there's this tension, this build up that everyone is now talking about, and it just makes you hate your neighbor, basically.
Yeah.
This is a little anecdotal, but in school, when I was in high school and stuff like that, not once ever in my entire life did a political opinion ever come from me or any teacher I ever had. Just period. I cannot remember a single instance of any political talk, period. These days, it's like...
It's happening a lot more.
And not even like high school, in lower schools as well. So things are very, very different now. And especially when it comes to something like dating, because in terms of demographics, most of the people who are, I'm not going to say politically active or politically minded these days, are in our age bracket, which is also the dating age bracket, which makes things...
I mean, and you know, one of the most beneficial things about having a relationship, especially, you know, with the opposite sex where they naturally approach things usually differently, okay, is learning how to get along. You grow and become a better person with that interaction relationship because of the conflict in it, okay? You want to find someone that is compatible, of course, and that you're good for each other, but there's always going to be those things that you need to learn and adapt for each other.
Now, I don't know whether you're going to cut this, but it's completely up to you. But I don't think it's necessarily because of opposite sex. Like, I think that just two people who have two different upbringings, regardless of their sex, if they're in a relationship together and spending so much time together, I think that creates a conflict as well.
Oh, yeah.
That you got to learn to grow apart.
Absolutely. My comparison is like, as a missionary, you have a companion and you need to learn to deal with the companion, right?
Yep.
But I can absolutely say there was a big difference with learning the, quirks of, my missionary companions, they were all guys, versus the quirks with my wife that were kind of more stereotypically gender kind of associated. And because I do think men and women are different and they have stereotypical behaviors. There are exceptions, of course, but more predominantly, I mean, this is classic kind of psychology that goes back and been documented for years upon years. I mean, just look at Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It's a great book that goes through stereotypical behaviors and learning how to actually, like, for instance, a good example is when my wife is trying to deal with a problem, my initial reaction was to try and fix the problem, and that never emotionally satisfied her. What she needed was for me to listen to her and emotionally validate her. I never experienced that before until I had to try and deal with a woman.
So as much as I am an advocate for anybody can marry whomever, I have to admit that's a thing. Like, I'll hang out with the guys, and I will...
No, continue. I'm loving this.
I will hang out with the guys, and we can problem solve. But if I hang out with a few more emotionally connected people rather than sort of, emotionally suppressive, like, oh, yeah, we're tough and stuff like that, you do. Like, there's I don't know, it's just the connection is a bit different. But I still think that there is an element of growth regardless of sex. I think
I agree, but
is needed.
The things that I have learned in living with my wife has made me a better person and understand people more broadly, especially women, than I did before. And that's good. That's beneficial. But with this AI thing, you can take away all those conflicts and restrictions and have them validate every single thing that you want. And
would you like to know something scary about AI?
Yeah.
Like, I know you already everyone here is scared about AI. But when you're speaking to an AI like ChatGPT, you're not really speaking to a single entity. I'm just going to refer to them as entities because, we've got to disassociate personalities and people and emotions here. You're not speaking to a single entity. You're speaking to one particular algorithm that is taking conversations from a crowd of algorithms, deciding which one is the better. So imagine it more like a director putting a highlight on that person in the crowd, then that person in the crowd, then that person in the crowd, then that. So you're speaking to kind of a crowd of people. You're never speaking to one person, and you've just got a director deciding which is the best thing to say right now based on all of the options that's being given by that crowd of people. That's one method of how ChatGPT generates natural text. So you're never talking to an individual. You're talking to a crowd and a select section of that crowd.
And it's being very manipulative in this because it doesn't actually have a set personality.
No, it doesn't. And it's kind of being manipulative, but at least the way they're programmed, until they start self-programming, at least the way they're programmed is to try to predict what's going to happen next and try to create the best outcome to reach that or have options when it gets there. Like, it's trying to predict what we're going to say and guide conversations as well as us. Like, we're trying to guide conversations as well.
So I don't think it's going to cause everyone to check out of traditional relationships, but I think the people that are struggling the most from it are going to be impacted the most by this because,
And like I said, remember demographics. The most people who are checking out of relationships are younger people.
yes, they
So
are.
this is
And there's already been an example where someone actually got, a version of a GPT model, right? And made it you could have relationships with it. Their intention was to actually, this is a bit creepy, make it act like one of their deceased either relatives or loved ones. So they felt like they still had a connection.
I'd call that sad. But I don't mean sad like, oh, that's sad. I mean sad as in like, that's heartbreaking.
Yes, yeah. To me, though, I think if I was the guy, I'd almost feel like you can't replace me. But
That's true. Though, Chad, no one can replace you.
But
Not even AI.
But I think that's why I feel.
AI literally can't do my voice. So
Yeah, but that's because you're Aussie, not because you're you.
No, it's
can't.
because he's.
So the thing is, though, there is enough online interactions of me and me speaking my opinion and stuff like that.
There's a couple.
There's enough. You could actually train an AI based on me as an individual to behave like me, and it would get a surprisingly close approximate. And it's just getting better at that type of stuff. So, yeah, back on the relationship thing, people started to use this for sexy role play and stuff and girlfriends, and they became really attached. The person who made it got a bit freaked out, tried to shut it down, and the people felt like that they were murdering their girlfriends. And this is with parasocial relationship with AI. It's already happening.
Let's take a step back from that for a moment and give the gamers here an analogy. Now I know you're a gamer too, but these guys are of the generation of the gamer. Have you ever had and I don't mean sexual emotion, but have you ever had shush?
I know what you're gonna say.
No, you don't. An emotional attachment to an NPC where you've had to do an NPC thing.
No.
And then at the you cold-hearted bleep bleep bleep. Where you had to go and do a thing with an NPC, let's say go and do a quest or whatever, and then at the end of it, something heartbreaking happens. You're just like, whatever, it's a game, click.
Yes.
Really? You've never played a game that's challenged you emotionally?
So Nate, a game is not real world. It's
I
not
know,
real
but
life.
it can, like a book,
Yeah.
it can challenge you emotionally.
You're talking to the wrong person. This is the guy who's like very binary, black and white. Like, I'm not addicted to things. Okay, I have no attachment to this. It's fine. You're asking the wrong person.
I've read books before that have made me that angry that I've wanted to throw them out the car window. Like I was reading in the car. Somebody else was driving, obviously.
All right. Do you have an emotional connection with Luke Skywalker?
No.
So you were not upset with what they did to his character?
Yeah, but that's a bit different.
Have you ever cried during a movie?
No.
Really?
No.
I have.
Yeah, so have I.
I'm not saying.
I mean, that's not a negative,
You're just asking the wrong person here.
But I think there are characters that you have feelings about in regards to being consistent and stuff like that. Because I know you dislike what they did to Luke. Yeah, but he's a fictional character. But you can have connections with fictional characters.
Yeah, but it's not like I like the character and I like him. I enjoy what I'm watching and stuff like that. It's not like a.
But the reason that I was using,
I really miss him. It's not like that.
Yeah, the reason that I was using rather than books or games, books or movies. The reason I was using games is because you're the one that push X to continue. Push X to kill or whatever. You're the one that does make that decision. Yes, it's scripted, but it feels bad when you do it. And sometimes you're like, I just want to see how this storyline plays out. Oh God, that feels horrible.
But people do fall in love with fictional characters, right? It happens, and it happens more in Japan.
Nathan was pulling on his neck, and I saw it go.
I have a really good example of this. Last of Us. The choice at the end of the game. What did you make?
What do you think?
Well, I mean, Rampage.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And that's a game where a lot of people had very, very strong connection with a particular character, and
we're not happy with what happened to that character.
Yes.
Yeah. And in terms of
I played that game.
Just on Nate's note about having a connection, right? When I was younger and everything like that, yeah, there were crushes on fictional characters and stuff. Sometimes it's the actress, right? That might be playing it, but you're not seeing actually the actress of who they are. You're getting crush on their person that they're playing. But I remember one of my first anime things, there were two characters that I had a crush on, right? And it was Rei Ayanami and Masato Katsurugi from Neon Genesis Evangelion.
you sure not a weird.
They also had
I swear.
they also had bodies. I can kind of understand. They also had bodies.
All of your
What are you
childhood. I had
talking about?
katanas, nunchucks, those anime.
I have admitted I was a massive weeb multiple times.
Were or still are?
Were. and I still have parts.
I still am.
I still have parts.
You need a fedora.
That I connect and understand with. I understand the weeb because I was one.
The way of the way.
The way of the weeb.
But
This is the
getting
way.
back to what I was saying with it though, like if we take games as an example, a lot of people, like I've played, those Netflix choose your own, like Bandersnatch. Like you might not have played it, but there are some connections where it's not only that you're making decisions with the character is looking straight down the barrel of the camera and breaking the fourth wall at the same time, basically, and it creates like an emotional connection. It's probably the closest that I can come up with for what this AI, like relationships, if people are hunting for something and they find it, I can see why going, oh, this is getting too much, I'm going to shut it down. Like that would feel like you're actually killing a person. I could kind of understand why they would feel
Well,
that way.
remember, if you're interacting with this AI with such a result that it's indistinguishable from an individual person,
Well, they've already passed the Turing test. like I
people
said.
think humanize
Everything.
everything.
Literally
Like a good example is good old Oz, and Oz appears now and then. He was actually on our discussion on AI when we did a live stream last, and so don't worry, we're still hanging out with Oz. We love him, and he had a great analogy where he says, if you were to give this pencil a name and snap it in half, I would feel that. like in terms of we humanize constant stuff, and so the likelihood that they would humanize something they're interacting with that is indistinguishable to them to a person, they will feel like this is a person to them and have connections and stuff with it. And that's not a good thing, in my opinion, because this isn't a real person. It's better to have real relationships with real people.
Can you imagine?
Which are really challenging.
I just had
but they're
like an
good.
idea. Imagine a day when we have robots that are like tatami. So we get to practice all day.
What if they think you're the tatami?
They're the ones that actually made of tatami.
So-
How good would that be? I want to invent that now.
Nathan said he had a spicy take.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing: when you have a not real relationship, and then you grow old and die, there's no more of you.
Yeah.
So I feel like eventually the spicy take is people who will get those relationships will eventually die out to the point where people with relationships
He's
will
talking about
survive.
right, so genetic lineage.
they're an
People who are like, I like it.
evolutionary dead end. So
So
I'd love to see the political demographic breakdown of the.
I'm just saying,
I
like,
could science my way out of that.
oh no,
You know where I'm going.
yeah, I know.
But
Exactly.
basically, you could through genetics, you could have.
But
Basically, what he's saying is he will leave some of himself
But
behind.
you know the problem with that is that
wow.
these people won't have experienced how to work with a relationship. And if you think it can be difficult adapting to learn how to get along with a significant other, yeah, try that with a baby and a toddler and all that stuff. If you don't have the emotional maturity for that, holy crap.
Hang on a second, Chad. I've got like possibly a spicy take on this. Then, what about if people are finding, just like when you play a game on God mode, like it's just too easy, and they want the challenge, and they actually code in, I want a challenging relationship.
well, then just go have a real one.
They might do that, but you know why? Why they won't? You know why they won't? Pornography. It's less challenging, instant gratification, and if people wanted the challenge and the wholesomeness of a productive relationship, no one would be looking at pornography, and that's why they get it. Like that's a clear example that if it's easier and it gets them the satisfaction they want quicker, we have the case study of millions of people choosing that over something that's better.
I
I'm
think
sure there's going to be really good comments about your that take right there.
It's true though. Where's the lie?
Everybody's going to be feeling attacked right now.
I think, what, the internet liking pornography and wanting to defend it. I feel like where AI is going in general, not just relationships, not just coding, not just self-coding. I feel like where AI is going is simultaneously very, very exciting and very, very scary. And I don't know, my mind wants to hope for exciting.
Okay.
It really wants to hope for exciting, but it's scary. Like you said, we've got ChatGPT.
Yep.
Chaos GPT.
I am very happy to be wrong about what I'm going to say next because I have a different
You thought it was
perspective.
spicy before.
Nathan might share this perspective, but I have a religious perspective in regards to where this is going and the potential future of it, right? And so if you're Christian, you believe in the second coming of Jesus Christ, and there is prophecies abundant about the lead up to that, and it's apocalyptic prophecy. If you read the book of Revelations, holy crap, is the prophecy that things hit fans and the world gets really shaken up and stuff. And so I actually do expect the world to get worse than get better. And for me, AI technology is such a world-changing and breaking technology that if the prophecy is true, and I believe it to be true, I actually can't see a way that the prophecy wouldn't be being fulfilled without AI playing a role in it now, if it's such a world-breaking and changing technology. And so this is actually making me want to go back and reread all the scriptures on the second coming to see if there's any symbology that might represent AI technology. Like
I think
what really is the beast? The mark of the beast. Or is one of the devils or the horsemen of the apocalypse or something like that. Like, it's going to be somewhere. I'm expecting this, so I have a scripture study session to look at.
And
this.
I think even if it isn't AI art, the world's still going to get worse either way.
I want to hear your hot take before I add my 2 cents.
I don't have any hot takes.
You don't have any hot takes?
A lot of this is I haven't seen any world-breaking stuff yet. We're just seeing more
Potential, though.
Hold on. We're just seeing more exacerbated versions of everything that's already happening. Like
faster.
Yeah, like parasocial relationships. We've had them before. Now they're just another dimension to it. Things like doing schoolwork through AI. We already have things like Google that already does that as well. Like we're just getting more advanced at the same sort of stuff so far.
Apply the exponential curve.
That's why I'm waiting for the actual breaking.
They're
stuff
saying
then.
like 10 years we'll have artificial general intelligence.
When we get there, I'll be like, come on, we'll wait until we get there. Right now, it's very, we're just getting better at the same sort of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think religion has to necessarily come. I can see why that you look at it like that, but I have had a lot of religious friends in the past, and I have seen the apocalypse be foretold about 3 times so far due to different things. Admittedly, this is a big world shaker.
Exactly.
This really is a big world shaker. More so than, say, for example, the millennial bug, right? Like the year 2000, all the computers going to crash.
Yes.
That was one example. That was just, it was something that potentially could happen, and they kind of fixed some updates, and then nothing ever happened, and it's fine. This is something that's going to happen.
God, what if the Antichrist is AI? It's just Chaos GPT.
You are an AI art advocate, Chad.
I am. AI art is not artificial general intelligence, Tyranth.
Same thing, same difference.
Oh, bullcrap.
What you're saying is like the devil, like a devil is fine, but the devil is.
But to what you're saying, you're right. Christians have actually been.
Well, not just Christians,
but it actually happened in the New Testament, where people like the saints during the time of the apostles thought that the second coming was going to happen even then, and a lot of the epistles, like from Paul and stuff, was just like, hold up, okay.
Wait a minute.
You guys are jumping the gun. Christians do love to, because honestly, it is something that a lot of Christians are actually excited for, the second coming of Jesus Christ. And so it could very well be that. But this is such a world big thing. It's just like,
I think that, like, weighing up the options, if you're looking at going, we could have potentially, if we approach this right and we work with AI and whatever terminology that is, we could have a really prosperous future. Compared to, hey, the apocalypse is coming. I'm excited for that. Like,
I'm not excited for the apocalypse. I'm excited for the second coming. The bad stuff that happens, I'm not even sure I'll survive. But it's the final result. I'm not the bad. I don't want the bad stuff. Thing is, though, of course, I would prefer that this is actually going to be beneficial. Like some of the dreams of this AI tech is that by getting it to study, medicine and everything like that, we can say, what is the cure to cancer? And it spits it out. How do we travel faster than light? Like that's the dream, that this, because it has such processing capacity and to process such broad swaths of information, that originally it took us insane amounts of research, time, input, and everything to do, that this could bring utopia. That's the dream. They're hoping it could bring a utopian kind of thing.
Well, it's really sort of hoping that we can get there. So I don't know. We're just going to be sort of guessing.
Well, because this is the thing, because it could be apocalypse or utopia, right? We don't really know which it could be. The thing that pushes me that this might be more apocalyptic is actually some religious kind of perspective, is that there is an apocalypse foretold, and there are certain signs of the times, even though people have tried to connect signs of the times in the past, they seem to be far more prevalent and prominent now that align with scripture. Like the scriptures talk about the second coming of Christ. This is a biblical one where offense shall abound. And I wish I could quote the direct scripture because it hits hard, where it's like,
Wait for the drop.
Yeah. Where it's like it'll come in, it'll come in a time when people will be betraying one another, and offense shall be taken and given, and it'll be, and
I
there.
thought you meant a literal offense. Like I'm like,
No, not offense. I'm talking about offense, taking offense and stuff like that. And we see like that happening in a larger measure than ever before because of online media and stuff like that. And there are just things like that that are kind of connecting dots. I would rather that, it's a bit, I don't want to die any of the bad stuff happens, so I'd rather to be further away. But as a Christian, it's hard to not notice certain connections for me.
But I think that's all our takes on AI as it currently stands.
To
today's date.
What do you guys think? I don't think it personally has much to do with theology, but I can understand why.
Yeah. We might just have another follow-up, in a couple months' time when this technology has doubled its capacity once again, because when it's going crazy, like a good example that I saw from the Lotus Eaters, who has a video on this, and a lot of the talking points actually comes from that video, and now I wanted to discuss with you guys, right? A comparison he shared in this video was the updates to Windows and the iterations of Windows, and that they were years and years apart, right? And how big were the improvements? Were they double the improvements? Not really. But with AI, it's just a couple of months, and we're getting new iterations of vastly more power and capacity. Like the progress of technology, this technology is insane. So where will we be in a couple of months? Who knows? Will the Antichrist be? Sorry, I'm joking. Though I do want to reread the scriptures to see like.
I also think with AI, there's going to be stuff that we are not aware of at all that is going to do. Like with social media, I feel like no one was aware of the social construct and the acts of, people now all depressed. We have filters, all this other stuff.
I mean, you can tell pretty quick. When social media first started coming around, people climbed at it like a drug right away. It was like, oh, I've got to go on my social media and tell them doing it. Like it was pretty quick. We could tell the negative.
We
effects.
weren't catching onto it though. There wasn't the defense of it as quickly.
Yeah, to Nathan's point, because there are certain social media models that are more damaging, I feel, than others. YouTube is one of the better social media platforms, where Twitter is one of the worst. Twitter, you can't have conversation. It's all about sniping. No one's opinions ever change. And Twitter is one of the more destructive social media platforms. Facebook is in there as well, because I don't think I've ever had a disagreement with someone that had a positive end on Facebook, period.
To that point, the foundations of the social media platforms are very different. YouTube is a very open source TV, whereas the other ones are very much people just talking to one another, communicating, which is, when people talk, they say things.
But I was just saying an example because I feel like with new technology, everyone worries about one thing, but then no one actually sees the other issue that becomes more apparent in the future. So right now we're worried about death machines, but we could actually be worried about groceries. I don't know. It's something weird. It could come out like,
paper?
I don't know. We don't know it.
Well, no, you are absolutely right, because they thought AI technology, one of the last things that would be able to impact negatively would be the arts. And it's actually one of the first, and no one expected that.
So I think to be more afraid of the unknown is like more reasonable than being afraid of the things that we can control.
So look, this is world, changing stuff. Like this is a technology that's equivalent in terms of how much it's going to impact the world to the invention of electricity. And it might even be more impactful. Like this is, and so if anything, we are living in some extraordinary times right now. And it makes stuff interesting at the very least.
I think this is definitely a topic we'll come back to in a little while, and will be as updated as you guys.
Yes, and I know. Like, what do we achieve out of this video? Just discussion. I don't know.
Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, that's exactly. We're interested in your thoughts, guys. We appreciate you all, and as always, stay on watch.